You're fed up with the 9 to 5. You've been working hard for years and you're just not seeing the results you want. You want to break free from the traditional career but don't know how. Business Breaks is here to help. Hello everyone, I am your host Dante. My very special guest today is Gordon Tredgold, a business transformation leader, executive coach, plus a renowned award-winning motivational speaker. His background is in turning around failing IT programs and leading transformation project teams of over 1,000 people. Gordon has the unique ability to assess difficult situations, determine what could be done differently, and then create simple, easy to understand and implement solutions which deliver sustainable results fast. He is a writer and the author of 3 books, including Fast 4, Principles Every Business Needs to Achieve Success and Drive Results, which was a finalist for the Management Book of the Year award. On a personal level, a few years ago, I reached out to Gordon when I was struggling to lead a finance transformation program within my own company. Gordon's mentorship, along with his book Fast 4, as well as his online course, How to Become a Great Leader, was key in helping me to turn around my own performance. That's why I'm super excited for this interview. Gordon, welcome to Business Breaks.
Thank you very much. And of all of the accolades, we were talking earlier about the Football World Cup. My greatest achievement, in my opinion, was when my book made the final 5 for the top management book in 2017. I actually edged out Alex Ferguson from that top 5. Leeds won, Manchester United nil. We didn't win it, it doesn't matter. I finished ahead of Alex Ferguson, and for a Leeds fan, that is massive.
Exactly. And for a lot of people, except for Manchester United fans, that will be massive as well.
Absolutely.
Brilliant, Gordon. And so I know we've talked a lot, but I've never actually asked you, how did you develop your career from IT transformation into becoming a leadership expert, executive coach, and then award-winning speaker?
The transformation for me happened was I was leading transformational change projects, and a lot of the times when I started, as everything in a career, you start by managing a team of 10, then 20, then 50, and so on. And when you're leading teams of 10, 20, 50, your own 2 hands and your own technical capabilities can be the difference between success and failure. So a lot of the transformations I was leading from the front, involving solutioning and then driving it over the line. And then as I got higher up the management chain and I was managing multiple projects, it then required me to, instead of leading from the front, develop the people who would lead from the front so that I could then support multiple initiatives. So to take that change, to make that change from leading teams of 50 and 100 to leading 300, 500 and 1,000, I had to transition from technical skills to soft skills and leadership skills. And once I'd done that, that allowed me to, really multiply the results I could achieve. Because if you've got 5 teams doing what you could do, you've now had 5 times the impact. And then I looked at that and I thought, okay, how can I take this to the next level? And the easiest way to do that was to actually become a leadership expert and then not be tied to one company and train more and more people and coach more and more departments. So, one of the things I talk with people about is that what I'm really good at is getting the train on the right track. And once doing that, I would then be asked to drive the train. But I don't want to do that. I just want to help put more trains on the right track and then leave other people to drive them. And that was the transition. It got me starting to think about how did things work and then how could I share that in a way that would be accessible for others to then go on and do the same thing. And it's been a great journey. And I would say to people, if you want to learn and understand something like leadership or management or anything, try teaching it. because to teach something, your level of understanding has to be a lot greater than you thought it was, because it takes more to explain than it does to just do. So it's been a great journey, great learning experience, and loved every step of it.
Thanks, Gordon. That's a fascinating story and a great analogy with the train tracks.
Mm-hmm.
I'm gonna add that to my list of things to do for 2023. Start teaching more.
The majority of projects fail because the train's on the wrong track. And what I'm really good at is getting the train on the right track. Once it's on the right track, anybody can drive it. It doesn't need me to drive it. It's a fairly straight business. But if the train's on the wrong track, it doesn't matter who's driving it. You're never going to get to where you want to be.
In terms of digital transformation, there's some people who think that leadership is good, whereas management is not so good. And where do you think that line of thinking comes from?
I think a lot of times we tend to think about good leadership and bad leadership, and we call it good leadership and bad management. Management is absolutely fundamental. If we think of success as a coin, leadership is one side, management is the other. Leadership is about setting the vision, motivating the people, engaging the people. And then management it's all about the tracking, the planning, the tracking of execution, and taking care of the day-to-day issues that arise. So for me, management is absolutely fundamental. And people need to be skilled in both management and leadership. If you're only skilled in management, you're going to be great at maintaining the status quo. If you're only good in leadership, then you're going to set great visions that are never going to get delivered, or you're going to have to find somebody else to deliver on your part.
Yeah.
The sad thing is we always get management training, we rarely get leadership training. And when we do get leadership training, it's usually management training in disguise because
Yes.
people don't understand it. I did a training course for a company about 3 weeks ago, and I said, we're going to start with a simple exercise. I'm going to split into 2 teams. One team we're going to define what are leadership activities, and the other what are management activities. And one of the people who was on the leadership team said, this is a waste of time. Everybody knows the difference between leadership and management. And I said, okay, so let's just do it, because it should be really quick. It should be 5 minutes instead of the 40 minutes I've got planned. And I said, so you go write down what leadership is. And he wrote it down. I went, now that's all management. So thank you for proving my point that people think they know what leadership is, but actually it's just management in disguise.
Yeah, and I see a lot of that as well on social media, where you've got leader versus manager, and then under the manager column, it's all bad leadership practices or negative leadership practices. And most managers know that you have to be a leader if you're managing people as well.
Yeah, absolutely. It's about good leadership and bad leadership. It's not about leadership and management. They are both good and both needed. It's about good and bad leadership and good and bad management.
Thanks, Gordon. And then what's the biggest challenges you face when being asked to turn around a failing project? I mean, you're someone who's a very clear thinker and you get to the crux of the matter quite quickly, but how do you do that? Or what do you seek out when trying to address underlying problems in any project?
So you mentioned my book Fast, and Fast was a book that I wrote. So just a little bit more background. My education is mathematics, and what I was really good at was data analysis and pattern recognition. So having done the turnaround work for a lot of time, I asked myself, are there common repeating problems that are causing initiatives to fail? And what I found, and this is the basis of my book Fast, is that there are 4 real causes of failure. A lack of focus. We're not clear about what the goal and the objective is. And it might also be that we just haven't communicated that down to our teams, so they don't know. So that's about the what. It's about a lack of accountability. It's about the who. The people involved either don't feel accountable, don't have the things they need to be accountable, don't know and they're accountable, and then a lack of simplicity, which is about the how. If people don't understand how we're going to be successful, why would they engage? And we have a tendency to overcomplicate. So it's a lack of simplicity. And then the last one is a lack of transparency, which is two things. It's about understanding what's involved and then tracking your progress through it. And I often talk about marathon running. And, a lot of people tell me, oh, I couldn't run a marathon. But it's not about running a marathon. It's about training for 6 months, 5 days a week. If you can do that, you better run a marathon. So that's about knowing what that transparency into what's involved. Pregnancy takes 9 months. If you try and do it in 3, you're going to fail. And then tracking it. So whenever I go into organizations, those are the things I'm looking at. Are we clear about what the goal is? Have we got the right people involved? Do we understand? Tell me how we're going to be successful. And then what are we doing to track and trace it? And it's usually one of those 4 or a combination of the things. Now, the question you asked me was a little bit different. What's the biggest challenge? And the biggest challenge is often that it's easy to find those things because, as I say, I'm just looking at the what, the who, the how, and the where are we. So that's an easy process. The challenge part is changing the mindset of the people. And I've just been working with a group of people where we've been looking at operational performance. And as far as they're concerned, their performance is great. But when you dig, it's awful. There's a significant room for improvement. So these are when you get the people into what I call the happy underachiever book. And the hardest thing is that, if you think of it as a quadrant diagram, happy, unhappy, underachieve, overachieve, you can't go from happy underachiever to happy achiever because you have to become unhappy in order to change. And the biggest challenge is to do that in a way that gets them unhappy with the situation. And if you're not careful, if I came up to you and said, hey, you're 30 kilos overweight, you need to go on a diet, you'd be unhappy, but you'd probably be unhappy with me. And now that puts me in a position that I can't lead you on that transition. Even if it's true, because I pissed you off. It's about getting that balance right of being able to, hold that mirror up to where they are and then showing them how we can get to where we need to be. And if you can get that balance right, and you'll get people to change. And we were on a call with the global CIO, and the department leader was working with was able to tell them that over the 6 months we've been looking at this, we've reduced ticket resolution time from 53 hours down to 19 hours, and we've reduced the number of tickets from 700 a month to 500, which was a 75% reduction in business impact, which is huge. And he said to me, are you happy about that? And I said, no. What I'm happy about is that everybody understands the reports, everybody understands where the problems are, and now they're looking for additional opportunities to drive it forward. Because that's a transformation. Just reducing it by 75% is good, but it's that transformation of mindset of the people involved that's going to allow this to be sustainable and create that culture of continuous improvement. So yeah, it's about people and changing their mindset and getting them upset without getting them upset at you.
Wow, I'm mind blown right now. Because it is about motivating people, but how do you do that when probably the incentive isn't there? Maybe they're satisfied, so they're happy, but they're not producing and they're not aware. Yeah.
So on a personal level, my brother and sister, my son and daughter, and my daughter's partner, plus 2 friends, came to Valencia at the weekend. We've been spent to do the Valencia Marathon, and none of them have been doing enough training, and they were all worried because it's an aggressive race. It's only 5.5 hours before cut-off. London's 7 hours. But Valencia, 23,000 people running it. they were all a bit nervous, and I said to them, "What's the plan for the race?" Because I'd been injured and ill, so I'd had to pull out of it. I said, "So what's your plan for finishing it? Please don't tell me it's there has to be a plan." And they were looked at me like, "We don't have one." And my brother was in the Marines and he'd been training a lot, so I just texted my brother and I said, "Look, what I need you to do is if you can get them to 30K in 3.5 hours, that leaves them 2 hours in the last 12K, and you can almost walk that." And my brother was like, "Yep, I'll do that," which was it was freeing for him because he was going to try and run it in sub 4 hours. No chance. So this kind of relieved him of that burden and gave him the job. And everybody said to me, "Do you think that'll work?" And I said, "Well, if you look at your average running times, you can get to 30K in 3.5 hours." "Yeah, you're right." And I said, "And then you've got 2 hours to do 12K."
Mm.
And it was like, "Yeah, that'll work." And just that simple approach changed their mindset. And every single one of them finished it. Without a plan, without that right mindset, they were going into it, very, as one of my friends, my sister's friend said, she was Debbie Downer. Wishing, thinking about how far will I get before I quit. And, all of them finished it in under 5.5 hours. Only just, but it doesn't matter. So it's a W on the board. And, this is what we need to do for leaders. Give people that plan, show them how they can do it, create that belief in themselves and the plan. And once you do that, if they want to do it, boom, they'll go out and they'll do all of the hard work necessary.
That's powerful. Seems simple, but simple isn't always easy.
No, it's not. I have a simple plan to beat Mike Tyson. When the bell rings, I rush across the ring and knock him out with one punch. But definitely not only not easy, but probably highly unlikely. But a simple plan.
Yeah, exactly.
The only plan that would work, because I'm not going to beat him on points over 15 rounds.
Maybe do a marathon running around him.
Well, it reminds me of Alexander the Great when they fought the Persians at the Battle of Guatemala, and they were outnumbered by something like between 20 to 50 to 1. They said, "How are we going to win this?" And he said, "When you're fighting a bear, you have to stab it in the heart before it gets its arms around you." So as soon as this battle starts, we're all just going to charge at their king and see what happens. And they ended up routing them, and they won a war. They won a battle where they were outnumbered between 20 and 50 to 1. But it was just that simple plan. If you're fighting a bear, stab it in the heart before it gets hold of you.
Yeah.
And it's something people could understand and believe. We need, whether we can or we can't, we need to do this. This is our only option, so we can commit to it.
Makes sense. And a realistic plan, it gets you at least part of the way there.
It gets people to engage.
Yeah.
If you were to tell me, go out and try and knock Mike Tyson out with one punch in the first 10 seconds, I'd be thinking, you know what, okay, I'll give that a go. If you were to tell me what you need to do is to just keep your distance and jab in and try and beat him on points. Yeah, that's not a plan I'm going to engage in. And teams will quit if they cannot see a path to victory.
Yeah,
they'll disengage and quit. But if they can see that path to victory, then they'll give it a shot.
Critical, very critical. Thank you, Gordon. Going off topic a little bit, but it's a topic that is near and dear to my heart. And I know you're a very big proponent of agile delivery methods. Yeah. And also it's been growing in popularity in recent years to the point that it's now more or less mainstream, which I think is a great thing because it helps a lot of businesses understand the need for getting a result, whatever that is, and the urgency and being able to pivot once you have better information. But what are the common mistakes you see as organizations try to move from that traditional system of waterfall project delivery to a more agile structure and mindset?
So people think that agile is a methodology. I think that's the biggest issue. And what they do is they put in place all of the procedures. But actually, agile's a change of mindset, as you say. It's let's let's deliver incrementally. And although people understand that, what agile really is, it's about putting the decision making into the hands of the people on the front line. And the number one issue I see is where managers are reluctant to do that. Now, I am working with a team at the moment where the leaders in the Scrum Master and Product Owner, they want to tell me that they can't tell me how long it's going to take or how much it's going to cost. And that's a factor of agile. No, it isn't. Because you're supposed to be creating a minimal viable product. So tell me how many sprints to get to that. I appreciate you might not be telling me the end of the world, but at least give us some visibility into it. But I think the number one issue is management's unwillingness to give up control and to come back and say, you've got 12 months to deliver this by agile. Well, that setting the timeline is not about what agile is. It's about understanding that scope, creating the minimum viable product, then adding to it incrementally. And people work hard to get into management and leadership positions. So to now give up control, having worked all that time to get to it, is very, very difficult. And that's the number one disconnect that I see.
Makes sense. And you can see that during the daily stand-ups. When I've been a Scrum Master, sometimes the managers will invariably join the meeting and then they'll interrupt the status updates, almost like taking over and setting the agenda, and then that kind of becomes difficult to manage.
Yeah, you almost go from a centralized command and control to a central command but delegated control. One of the principles is that the team decides what's in this release. They set the delivery date, and again, whilst it kind of sounds counterintuitive, but if I tell you you have to deliver everything by Friday, that's my plan. And if you don't believe in it, you're not going to engage in it. By letting you determine what you'll deliver by Friday, now it gives you some ownership and an opportunity to create a plan that you believe in. So, if you tell me I can deliver 3 by Friday, the probability is I'm going to get 3 by Friday. If I say, no way, I absolutely need 5, the probability is I'm still going to get 3 by Friday. but you're pissed off and I'm pissed off. So, that's my number one disconnect with it.
Yeah, that resonates deeply with me. I mean, sharing a personal story, I remember I delivered on one of my projects within time, within scope, and it didn't deliver the benefits that the executive sponsor wanted. So then he was berating me about not being agile enough and that I should have pivoted. So I said, these are the dependencies, these are the constraints, this is the resources you gave me. How was I supposed to be more agile under those circumstances? There was this silence because it was a senior level meeting. Normally I wouldn't push back, but I was backed in a corner and there were a lot of people there. And I felt like that if I didn't speak up, I wouldn't get respect. And I think I got respect after that, but I didn't like doing that. But it gave me this idea that there's a tendency for leaders to almost blame it on, like, we've implemented this new framework. You're not being agile enough because you haven't delivered what we were expecting. You didn't pivot, but if you don't give them the underlying tools and the resources to deliver, or at least be able to pivot, then it becomes difficult. Do you see those sort of abuses, sponsors?
Yeah, see that all the time. But there is a fine line to balance. I led a program where we had to migrate 75 VPNs, virtual private networks, and I know nothing about these. The fact that I was leader of this initiative, it was interesting given I had zero technical capability, and we had to do it in 25 days. And the team, so I said to the team, okay, so we need to do 3 a day. And they said, where do you get that from? I said, well, I divided 75 by 25. There's no way we can do 3 a day. I said, listen, this is a contract. We have no choice. We've got to get it done in 25 days. So don't tell me why we can't do it. Now tell me what the resources are you need, and I will go and get them. And if we can't get them, then I'll go back to the exec sponsor and tell them you can't have this. But this was a contract exit where we were trying to get out of it, so there was a lot of push on that. But then we had to move the agile. We didn't have a flexible time frame. We could be agile and flexible in how we did it, and we ended up cutting a lot of corners in terms of documentation, so we can do 3 a day. We had 2 teams running in parallel, and the first team to finish would then do the second one. And we did a lot of things where looked at the critical path and said, okay, we'll just get a team that are writing the steps we need. So we'll have a team doing design, and they'll try and get as much of the design done out, and then we'll have an execution team. It's just give it to me, execute, 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 execute. So, yeah, I think I do see a lot of issues with it, but as I say, it's getting that balance right of delivery versus, we used to talk before about analysis paralysis, but there must be agile arthritis or something that we can come up with where we become too agile and we never do. We're on the verge of delivering something, but nothing ever gets delivered. And we just got to get that. We've got to get that balance right. And one of the questions you asked me earlier, before we come on now, was that the importance of technical versus soft skills. And as leaders, we have to have some semblance of technical skills so that we can push our teams in the right direction. Now, I don't know anything about VPNs, but from a project, I do have the planning experience. I know that you've got to do 3 a day if you want to get them in 20. So you kind of got to bring some sanity to what it is we're trying to do, and that does require a degree of technical competence. Maybe not necessarily in-depth experience, but we do need to have some degree of technical competence. It can't just all be soft skills.
Yeah, and in business, maths is an invaluable skill to have. At the end of the day, if you do it right, the numbers don't lie. So thank you, Gordon. And actually, I will come back to that question on soft skills versus hard skills, or should we say communication versus technical skills? Again,
well, that's an interesting thing, because with the VPN, I kept asking the team, how are you going to do it? They went, oh yeah, trust us, we know this inside out. And okay, so tell me step by step, how will we do one? I don't need to know all 75. Talk me through how we're going to do one. I went, yeah, we know that. I went, no. Talk me through it. And there's a great quote from Einstein that says, if you can't explain it to an 8-year-old, you don't understand it. So I actually forced them to explain it to me, and just getting them to communicate in a way that I understood it. And you've got to do that, because if I don't understand it, then I'm actually not in a position to help you. I'm just a spectator now, and I want to participate. But getting them to communicate to me in a way that I can understand it actually helped them understand it better, and also force them to, if you could explain it to me as a program manager, you then be able to take what we've explained, what you shared, and explain it with the other team members so that everybody understands what it is we're trying to do, and then can contribute to either execution or improving the schedule. So that in terms of soft skills and technical skills, if you're technically gifted but you can't explain it to anybody, that's going to be a limitation on your career. Communication is key.
That's a beautiful insight. Completely agree. And it's something that I unfortunately started understanding later in my career than I would have liked. But it's good that you're sharing this, because I think.
But the challenge is, if purely with other network experts, you are going to speak the same language to each other. So whilst you're communicating greatly with your team, when you want to make that move up to the next level or communicate to management, you can't talk to senior management about VPN migrations in the same way as you would another engineer. And I do feel that people need to be exposed earlier to learn that earlier. Because as I say, if you only ever sit and work with network engineers, you're going to feel your communication's great. You're not going to know that nobody outside that room has a clue what you're talking about. And I see this when people come to present to manage, when they're looking for funding and presenting. It's like, who are you talking to? What are you talking about?
Do you wonder if some of those executives are partially responsible because they may not know and they don't ask them, excuse me, can you explain VPNs in a way that I can understand?
Well, yeah, but I think as well that there's that saying, bullshit baffles brains. And I think sometimes we can be nervous about, oh, yeah, you're going to explain to me brain surgery now. I don't know anything about that. Am I going to understand it? It's not my job to understand it. It's your job to explain it to me in a way that I can understand it. And if you do that, I will understand. That doesn't mean I can go and do it, but I will be able to understand it. And I think people lack that confidence to ask that question. I remember probably 25 years ago now, I was working with Britannia Airways on their crew rostering system, which is a massively complex algorithm of what crew, what flight, how many stops do the planes make in order to drive efficiency. It's a hugely complex mathematical problem. And we were working with a company called Sabre that was originally part of American Airlines that split off, and we were using their tool. And I was evaluating the next version. So I went to Fort Worth, where their offices were, and I was in a meeting with a lot of senior execs, and I was the primary contact for Britannia. And I said, could you explain this to me? And the sales guy said to me, well, I could, but unless you've got a degree in mathematics, this is just going to be, way above your head. And I said, okay. And then he moved on. I went, what are you doing? He said, I'm moving on. I went, no, go back. I have a degree in mathematics. He said, what? And I said, I have a degree in mathematics. So this is not going to be above my head. So please explain it to me. And he said, I don't understand it enough to explain it. And I thought, yeah, I knew that was the case. But you were trying to make me feel small. By telling me it was above my head. And as I say, you just need to have that confidence that if you know it well enough, you should be able to explain it to me in a way that I can understand it. And for me, it's a double-edged sword, because I tell that to people all the time. But also, as somebody who wants to teach leadership, I'm now on the other side of that. Explain it to me, explain it to people in a way that they can use it as well. And I see how powerful that is. And we just have to have that courage to ask, explain it to me.
Yeah.
Talk me through that in a way I can understand.
That's brilliant. And I think it almost answers the question I'm going to ask anyway. Again, coming back to the balance between hard and soft skills. And I guess for people just starting out in their career looking to get into digital transformation, is there a right strategy or approach to balancing out? Should people in their early career focus on the hard skills, the technical aspects, before then developing soft skills, or is there a blend of the two? I guess it's also dependent on what sort of role they have, but with AI being prevalent, do you really need to understand coding or libraries to actually explain how the AI works? Or again, sorry, I'm using AI, but there's lots of technologies as well. To what extent do you need to really be a deep expert on them versus being able to communicate that understanding so that you can you can interact with other people across the business and explain what you're doing and how it adds value?
Yeah, so I think the challenge for all of us is that when we take our first job, we are just a pair of hands, and the hands do the technical work. So we are forced to start from a technical position, and then as we move up the ranks, it blends until it flips, and the soft skills become more important. But what I would say to people is definitely develop the technical skills, but also work on the soft skills in parallel, because the soft skills are fundamental not to our profession but to life. So soft skills, knowing how to motivate, encourage, communicate, will help you with any girlfriend or boyfriend or whatever relationship you're going to have. They're going to be fundamental to helping with your kids, your friends, and your family. And we can learn and practice those, outside of the professional, and then bring them into the professional sphere. So I would definitely tell people to work on both of those. Especially, I was doing a workshop last Wednesday, and we were talking about people moving from a technical role into a business relationship management role, which is much more about communicating, understanding the business problems, and then communicating solutions rather than being technical. I said, we're going to start this by doing coaching. And everybody said, I don't know how to coach. And I asked them, do you know what the one and two most important skills are in coaching? And they said, no. I said, number one, listening. And number two, asking questions. Well, we can all do that one. So we can all be coaches. But you've got to practice that listening. And, 5 levels of listening. There's waiting for people to stop talking so they'll just go and leave you alone. There's listening to, waiting for them to finish so you can respond. There's listening so you can answer the question. There's listening so that you understand what's being said and what's not being said. That strengthens your understanding. And then there's that listening with understanding what's being said, with our head, ears, and heart, where we hear what's being said, and we also understand the emotions that are being felt at that same time, because it gives us more context. And once we do that, that's gonna help us. So I would work on the soft skills. And just to give you an understanding of the benefits of listening and asking questions. I was coaching somebody from one of the big 5 consultancy firms, and he was doing a transition from a technical role into a more business development sales role. And he said to me, the problem is I can't sell. I was like, okay, why can't you sell? And he said, I don't have the sales skills. Well, okay, what do you think are the top 3 sales skills? And he said, empathy, problem solving, and persistence. I was like, yeah, I would agree with that. What are your top 3 skills? And he said, I've got really good empathy, I've got good problem solving skills, and I'm quite persistent. It's like, okay, but you can't sell. Why is that? And he said, I hate the products they're asking me to sell. I'm like, they hate the products they're asking me to sell. It's not your inability to sell, it's what you're selling that you don't like. And that asking and listening and asking probing questions are 2 fundamental soft skills that will help us. And then that empathy of being able to comfort, support, provide recognition, positive feedback, are all going to be very, very helpful for us. I mean, listening builds trust and generates respect, and it's a powerful tool. So yeah, I would develop your technical skills, but focus on the soft skills. They'll help you in life, and at some point, it's those soft skills that will take you to the next level.
And to that end, I'm going to do that. Start with listening and asking questions, which I guess I'll do right now. But yeah,
I don't know if I've got it now available, but I'll share this with you. These are and I shared it with the team. These are the top 5 or 6 coaching questions you can ask.
And I'll add the link in the show notes as well for the
Yeah.
listeners. Brilliant.
Was it slide 2? Yeah. So these are the top, some of the top coaching questions. Number 1 is, what would you do if you knew you couldn't fail?
Mm.
Because most people have a fear of failure. So by asking them, what would you do if you knew you couldn't fail, takes that away from them and prompts them to respond. Or what would you do if you had unlimited budget and resources and time? And that'll get them to start answering. And then you can work out, do we have those? Another great coaching question is, what else? Because, we like the person there, I'm not good at, I don't have the skill skills. Okay, so what else is going on? And what else? And we finally got to that. I don't like what I'm trying to sell. So if people are telling you I can't do it because of this, okay, yeah, and what else? And what else? Because people don't tend to tell you the real reason at the first time. They'll try and hide it behind something, especially if it's uncomfortable or a little bit embarrassing. They'll to try and push it off. Another great question is, why is this important to you? And a lot of people ask, why is this important? Which is a good question, but why is it important to you really anchors it with the individual. And then my favorite coaching question, when you ask somebody and they say, I don't know, is, but if you did know, what do you think the answer would be? And that's a real pattern interrupt. And people tend to say, I don't know, fish or whatever. Because again, they don't want to, they're worried their answer's not correct, so they won't say anything. But if you did know what it would be, and you get them to open up, or what's the real challenge here for you? Tell me why what else is going on that's stopping us from doing this? Another one of my favorite leadership questions is, as leaders, when we're pushing people and we ask them to do something, if you're saying yes to this, what are you saying no to? Because if you accept another job, there's only a finite amount of time. I want to know what it is you're saying no to, because actually that might have a higher priority, and I can say, you know what, forget it, focus on the one you were going to say no to. And then the last one is, do you have everything you need to be successful?
That last one, I used that when you coached me the first time I was struggling, and powerful, very powerful.
Yeah. Yeah, well, this one of the teams I've been working with, I mentioned this on accountability. This is a great question. And the exec in charge of the team went, okay, we're stopping the meeting now, and I'm just going to go around and ask each of you, do you have what you need to be successful? Because if you don't, I want to know, and let me fix it. And what we got out of that, it was really interesting that his teams were struggling to perform because they didn't have things that he could actually give them if they'd only told him.
But it's a nice way of asking, are you confident, without putting them on the spot and making them feel unsafe? Yeah.
Yeah, and if you don't have everything you need, I'll look to give it to you.
Yeah.
Yeah, so for me, these are all soft skills, and there's nothing there that you couldn't start doing today, either at home, with any team you play in, any relationship, to develop that skill and then use it in a work capacity.
Yeah, and not just as a coach, as you say, any leader looking to coach their teams, these are very powerful questions, no doubt.
Yeah, and what's interesting is that, quite a lot of time, when we ask that technical versus soft skills, the number of times I've applied for jobs and people have said, oh, you don't have Oracle, and we're looking for an Oracle project manager. No, you're looking for a project manager. But they tend to feel that the technology and those technical skills are more important. But if you do this a lot and work on a lot of projects, what you find is that there are some principal And there are, project management techniques and things that once you learn them, they apply across all technologies. So I've delivered projects. I delivered one of the largest Azure migrations in Europe 3 years ago. I knew nothing about Azure.
Mm.
But my technical skills, once you can make them a little bit technology agnostic, be asking how are we going to do this, and you know that you've got to do analysis, design, build, and test. That's true of any technology, of any business sector, any market, any vertical. So we just need to find out what are those portable technical skills that we can apply in other areas, because we've got to be able to challenge our teams, and that does require a degree of technical competence, but not necessarily detailed understanding of a particular field.
Yeah, there's always a first principle behind everything. Even in data analytics, there's only a limited number of things you're going to use. About 80 to 90% of the time you're going to be filtering, you're going to be summarizing, you're going to be joining tables, things like that.
So one of the things you talked about before was AI, and I thought, oh my God, I need to, AI is getting bigger, and I thought I need to learn about AI. And I think it was, I did an online course with Stanford University, which cost something like $19.
Right.
For an 8-week course with a professor at Stanford University. And I thought, okay, I'll do this. And it was a great course. Taught you a little bit about programming. But, once I got into AI, I was like, this is just mathematics. This is about plotting curves so you can predict what the next number is. And one of the examples they had was if a 2,000 square foot house cost 200,000, and then a 3,000 square foot house costs 300,000, and a 4,000 square foot house costs 400,000. How much does a 2,500 square foot house cost? 250,000. and that's all AI is.
Yeah.
It's making predictions based on the available data. Can you create a curve, and then can you just look at where that's going to be? I mean, I know that sounds trite and pretty simplistic, but actually, that's all AI is. It's looking at patterns and trying to think what's the next in the sequence, or what would the answer be between these two data points.
Do you think it's convoluted because of too many evangelists who don't really understand AI, promoting it and trying to sound intelligent?
I think that, what we were talking about before, if the experts can't explain it to me in a way that I understand, then it remains a mystery. Now, there could be a number of reasons for that. One, they don't understand it well enough to explain it to me. Two, they don't want to explain it to me, because whilst ever, they are the one-eyed man in the land of the blind, they are the king. And it makes it difficult to challenge them, and it makes their expertise more valuable. So I think there's some of that going on, and plus it's mathematics, and the majority of people. I remember I was doing something with a women's group of entrepreneurs, and I said, I've got this great spreadsheet that you can use. And as soon as I said that, their eyes just glazed over. Oh my God. Going to have to do maths, are we? And I think there's that kind of, people just oh, it's maths. But no, it's a lot more. If people can explain the fundamentals to you, then you can understand it. While ever they're talking at low levels of detail, or they're talking about the languages. What is it they use? Is it Python?
Yeah.
A lot of these languages, it does allow us to demystify it and make us sound like we're much more valuable than we are. But it's like, we were talking about the World Cup. The football commentators, they sound really knowledgeable, but basically it's 11 guys against 11 guys, and one of them is trying to kick the ball into the goal more than the other team. It's complex, but we can talk about it in complex ways that make it difficult for non-experts to understand. And a lot of leadership is about making the information accessible to others. And the more people it's accessible to, the more people that can participate, the more hands you've got pushing the boulder up the hill, the more progress and impact we're going to make.
Brilliant. Oh, thank you, Gordon. That has been an amazing interview. And yeah, I have so many questions I'd love to ask you, but maybe if you would, sometime down the road, I'd definitely love to have you for another.
Yeah, sure. I'd love to, because this sounds arrogant, but it's not meant to be. But a lot of times when I hear people talk, again, leadership, it can be spoken about in terms that make me sound really intelligent. And you go, wow, I didn't understand that. That guy must be a genius. And that's absolutely not. It's about making things accessible. So more than happy to talk and share. And, the more people we can elevate and share the skills with, the more hands we've got doing this. And I think, my final comment on that technical versus soft skill is that part of what I do as a leader is I try to find people that have the soft skills and teach them the technical skills of delivery. Because it's a lot easier to do that than to teach assholes soft skills. So that's where that's what my book Fast is about. It's about trying to give people with the soft skills delivery capability rather than trying to change people that have the delivery capability but zero soft skills and create soft skills for them.
Powerful. I mean, at the end of the day, we have to work with people. So.
Yeah. We need both. We need both, and businesses will take delivery over soft skills because they know it'll get delivered. You might never want to work with that manager again, but they've got the delivery. It's the soft skills that make your delivery skills sustainable and repeatable, or put you in demand both with companies and also people wanting to work with you, because it's a pleasurable, albeit probably difficult transformation. But if it's pleasurable and difficult, people will come back and do it. And if it's easy and unpleasant, people will shy away from that. So you need both technical and soft skills to get to.
Thanks, Gordon. Oh man, I'm gonna wrap up with one last question, Gordon. Where can our listeners find and connect with you online?
Yeah, pretty simple. I'm the only Gordon Tredgold in the world. So Google Gordon Tredgold. You'll find articles I've written online. You'll find my website. You'll find my LinkedIn, Facebook, Twitter page, and feel free to reach out. I'm highly approachable.
And I can definitely vouch for that. Gordon Tredgold, it's been a pleasure. Thank you very much. This episode is brought to you by Foundations Executive Search, the cutting-edge IT search agency with a blend of experience and ethics, resulting in successful partnerships as well as career-making opportunities. So hire your next top performer or take your career to the next level with Foundations Executive Search. Contact us today to build a brighter future. This podcast shares experiences and insights gained from business, IT, and digital finance. Hosted by two leaders who have made the leap themselves, this show is dedicated to helping listeners think differently about their career aspirations.